What's the benefit of being married over just being together forever? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. If you come from troublesome family, being legally married will prevent them from meddling when it comes to property ownership and medical care. This is a good reason. My family is a hot mess, and I'd want my soul to have a legal place within my life that no one could with. Also for the well-being of my child. And I guess I'm somewhat traditional and would love to hear someone I love for forever to call me wife. Haha. You don't even need to be from a troublesome family. Maybe your not in-laws adore you and treat you as their own. They think you're the perfect match. You get along splendidly. Death changes people. Grief warps people's rationality and sometimes makes people bitter, angry, and spiteful for no other reason than they're in pain and need. It happens often enough that the relationship between the unmarried partner and their deceased partner's family simply crashes and burns once they're suddenly gone. Story 2. Legal rights. Classic tragedy is for a couple to spend their lives together unmarried, which works fine until one of them dies and their family steps in as the legal next of kin and leaves the surviving partner destitute. This exactly. Married couples have automatic legal ties including inheritance, shared property, custody of mutual children, medical POA, etc. Substitute boyfriend or girlfriend for spouse in any of those equations and things get messy fast. I've read about more than one 20-plus year relationship where they never married, and when one died, relatives took half the property, including the house. Story 3. My sister's partner of 7 years passed away while they were engaged. They had lived together and were financially combined. The day after his death, his family, who he had a very limited relationship with, changed the locks on the house and wouldn't allow her access to her things without permission and an escort. They were vile. Had they been married, she would have been in more control of the funerary proceedings and management of their assets. It added to an already horrible situation. Story 4. A lot of people bring up the fact that the rights granted by marriage can be approximated with the correct powers of attorney and wills. Well, think of the fact that marriage is an internationally recognized concept, and especially if you're a straight couple, unfortunately, your particular marriage will be recognized without question wherever you are. If your unmarried partner has a health event during your vacation overseas, is that when you want to figure out if your power of attorney is valid here, get it translated and apostilled, find a local lawyer. Triangulate with your embassy, all the while your partner needs you at their bedside. Story 5. I've been a man married to another man for 20 years. I got married within a year of it being legal in Canada. It was a huge deal at the time. I even had to travel across the continent to do it. The crazy thing is that I'm the only one of my siblings to be married. The other two have been in long-term straight relationships with children, common property, etc. for well over a decade without either of them getting married. And one of them is in a relationship with a lawyer. It seems nuts to me. Common law partners have more rights in Canada, but still it only takes an afternoon to get married. Story 6. I didn't see the point to marriage until we got married. You feel reassured, stable. It made us feel a whole lot closer to one another, which I wasn't sure was possible. Legal benefits. Easier to transfer estates, wealth, or investment should either of us pass away. The wedding, however, we had 40 guests. And if we were to do it again, it'd be a micro wedding for sure. 8 to 10 guests at most. We did it on the cheap and spent around $12K. It was an amazing day. But I don't know that we really got anything more out of a 40-person 12K wedding than an 8-person 3K wedding. All we wanted was good food and a great photographer and memories with the people we loved the most. Story 7. Gay people fought for the right to marry for a reason, not just for fun. Marriage has many benefits, economic, legal, etc. Lots of commenters have already listed these. But I will mention a non-tangible benefit. The title of spouse actually feels heavier. I was with my now husband 10 years before we got married. I thought marriage was just a piece of paper too and put it off. But after we did indeed went to the courthouse and got that said piece of paper, I was surprised in the difference in introducing someone as my boyfriend against this is my husband. Even my mother-in-law, after getting over the shock of us not having a wedding, treated me differently. Our relationship feels more respectable. I thought it wouldn't matter. I thought I wouldn't care about how other people view my relationship. But I guess I do. Story 8. You are automatically next of kin. This is crucial when you consider a possible need to make medical decisions. Automatic inheritance in UK, even if there is no will. Automatic parental responsibility. This is not the case for parents if one dies and they are not married. Marriage is basically a contract enforced by the government to recognize your status in the life of your spouse, ensuring that you are their voice and advocate in a worst-case scenario, and that you are compensated accordingly in various ways. I'd note that in our society, generally marriage is still seen as the most valid form of partnership. There are benefits in that perception, though they are less tangible. Story 9. Marriage is a social construct, but guess what? We all live in a society. Marriage is a system that has laws and rights going back and being built over generations. Society and the law understands and builds itself around the concept of marriage. So while you can just spit out individual benefits, the bigger deal is that the system will be able to work around people married together, but might have glitches and not fit well for people cohabitating together, but informally. Story 10. Marriage is much more than a piece of paper. It grants medical rights, right to be in the room and DNRs, and more. It gives you tax benefits and insurance benefits as well. Car insurance is much lower when married. Inheritance is smoother when married. Also, culture issues. Unmarried couples cannot travel to certain countries due to morality laws and hotel issues. Marriage is also a beautiful promise to your partner to stay loyal and devoted to them forever. I have been married for 2 years and I feel so stable and peaceful. The medical stuff is really good to have in case of accidents, etc. Also, my husband is the greatest man I've ever met, and I feel eternally grateful to be his wife and soulmate. I recommend speaking to your partner about all this, specifically the legal and medical stuff. Story 11. My spouse says that filing 1 tax return instead of 2 was worth it for her. She hates administrative tasks. I was with my partner for 15 years before we got married, and we never really thought marriage was necessary. The legal protections around our health, assets, and children are great. You can get these things through legal means, but that would have cost more than our home wedding. Depending on the employer, unmarried couples can get on each other's health insurance plans. I found getting married to really make me think about our future in a different way. Maybe we just grew up. I find being married to someone who has the same goals for the future to be compounding. You could get this through a long-term commitment, but I think it takes a special pair to buy fully into it without marriage. Plus, in marriage, there is legal recourse for a spouse that was underemployed in a marriage that don't exist in no marriage situations. My mom was a stay-at-home mom by agreement with my dad most of my life. She gave up 15 years of full-time earnings and advancement to stay home. She worked hard and ran out home. My dad worked fairly long hours and did not help at home. In a long-term partnership, he could have left her and gave her nothing, and she had no career to fall back to. Instead, they divorced and she got around half of the assets of the marriage and some alimony. She deserved this because she put in the work to allow him to work in the way he wanted to. It was fair and not contentious. Story 12. My husband and I finally pulled the trigger on getting married because he needed health insurance and it would let me put him on mine. But there are a lot of good legal benefits. Being able to make medical decisions if they're hospitalized. Protection in case of a breakup, especially if one partner doesn't work. Making your partner your heir. The aforementioned American healthcare law surrounding spouses specifically. Immigration benefits if you ever leave your country. If you have a significant income disparity, there are likely to be tax benefits there were for us. Favorable treatment under certain laws. My state had home ownership provisions for the spouses of military vets, as one of many examples. Another commenter calls out survivorship benefits and 401k rollover benefits. There is a reason the LGBT community fought so hard for marriage rights as a goal. It was a generation that were kept out of hospital rooms, out of deathbeds, out of funerals, by their partner's family because without a marriage, they had no legal rights. Some of those things you can get by signing the right paperwork, and I strongly advise everyone, single or otherwise, to get living will and medical power of attorney sorted out, but not all of them. And many people won't think to do the paperwork until it's too late. Story 13. Okay, buckle up, buckaroo. This is my favorite question to get asked. The only change we have noticed coming up on 4 years of marriage: taxes and medical proxy. Nothing A&D everything is what I jokingly answer, but the reality is taxes and medical decisions. My wife almost died in 2019 from a ruptured ulcer that somehow tore right over an artery in my stomach. Within an hour and a half, she had half the blood of an adult in her body. The first procedure tore back open, so she had a second arterial bleed. We were not yet married at the time. I was working on sobriety after a period of separation, and we were just planning on big steps. This was September of 2019, so of course the next year, COVID, we eloped on Halloween. Why? Obviously for love and committing and being together and knowing how much we wanted each other. But I also never wanted to feel that powerless again watching her die and not being able to make decisions. The second rupture, they did in fact consult me, but she was incoherent almost, and the doctors knew it was an immediately treatable thing. Do you need to be married for all of this? No. You can sign medical proxy paperwork and next of kin, but in marriage, it all comes to me to make decisions when she cannot. That was the real moment I got sober, knowing someone else needed me just as much as I needed her. Story 14. Back in college, I was working 40 hours a week to pay for school. My fiancée was working at least that to pay for hers. Neither of us qualified for financial aid because our parents made too much money, but their money wasn't being used to pay for school. Ours was. And they surely didn't have the extra money to pay for it, even if they were supposed to, according to the government. We found out from the financial aid office that if we got married while in school, we could apply jointly, and because we didn't make enough, we would qualify. We were already engaged, but had decided to wait until college was over to get married. Instead, we started planning the wedding and got married the next year, qualified for aid, and it paid for the rest of college. We didn't need loans. This was early 00s before the tuition boom. We worked our butts off to get through college debt-free, and it worked for us. Not sure if any of that is valid information these days, but it helped us out at a time we really needed it, and we were able to start our marriage with minimal debt. Also, job benefits, medical dental vision, taxes, medical decisions. Story 15. Marriage at the legal level is a contract. Despite appeals from religious institutions that it's a sacred bond, as far as the state is concerned, it's a matter of property, inheritance, taxation, and things like power of attorney in medical decisions. In same-sex marriages, this provides the same protections in their partnership. Churches are welcome to add their flair to weddings, but without the license is not valid. The state, in my opinion, has no interest in what the two parties do in their relationship, despite claims that marriage is exclusively for procreation. If that were the case, sterile people or elderly people beyond childbearing age would also have no reason to be married. Historically, marriage often had additional implications in terms of tying families together, dowries, alliances, control of provinces, and so forth. Marriages were sometimes arranged, sometimes men had multiple wives, some were child brides. Thankfully, we've mostly moved past these practices. Common law marriage often resolves legal questions when two unmarried partners live together long enough. I'm very much not a lawyer, just relaying a few points an actual lawyer told me when the Obergefell decision came down. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below.